So we come now to Wheelock chapter 11. We have more pronouns to look at. We've looked at demonstratives in earlier chapters. We deal with the personal pronouns here. And then there are some additional demonstrative uses of pronouns that we'll cover in this chapter. So let's start with personal pronouns. Pronouns are words that replace nouns or stand for nouns. So pro means in place of, right? And a personal pronoun is a pronoun marked for person. So we've talked about first, second, and third person. The use of first, second, and third person is a way of indexing someone's orientation to the speaker. So Latin verbs, as we've discussed earlier, inflect for person, first, second, third person, and number, singular, plural. And personal pronouns do as well. Personal pronouns also inflect for case, and so we'll find in our first and second person pronouns they will have case and be singular or plural. And then third person pronouns also mark gender, even though the first and second person pronouns don't. All right, so just looking at our list here, our first person reference here refers to speaker. So anything that is first person is speaker, and that could be singular or plural. So I, singular, am a speaker, and if I and those associated with me are doing something, it's we. And the pronouns that mark first person are ego and nos. If it's second person, then that orients the attention to the addressee. Okay, so the speaker is the I and the addressee is the you. In English, our second person pronouns are you, or you, understood plural, or you all, you, guys, y'all, and so forth. And in Latin, it's tu and vos. Third person is basically everybody else. Whoever's not the speaker or the addressee fits into third person. Pronouns, then, in English, in third person, are he, she, it, and they. And in Latin, they are forms of is, ea, and id. And these are singular forms. If we wanted to say they, we would use the plural. Okay, so let's start with the first and second person pronouns. Ego, nos, tu, and vos. These have no gender. Okay, so whether the I is a man or a woman, we use the same form in Latin. They have no gender, but they do mark person and number and case. And a note here in our list that the plural pronouns for we and y'all have two genitive plural forms. All right, so let's just read these together. You can repeat after me. Ego, so this is I in the nominative case. Mei, of me, genitive. Mihi, to or for me. Me as the object. And me in ablative case, by, with, or from me. On the plural side, we have nos, so that's we as subject, nominative, nostrum, and nostri, of us, nobis, to or for us, dative case, nos, us, accusative case, nobis, by, with, or from us, ablative case. So notice that in Latin, we have case differences between these forms. And in English, we used to have a case system that was lost, but our pronouns actually retain the earlier case system. So I don't say of I say of me, right? I for the subject, I eat, but I don't say me eat. So we do see the remnants of our case system here in our pronouns. Let's look at the second person pronouns. Tu, so you, and the nominative, genitive, tui, of you, dative, tibi, to or for you, te, accusative you, as the object of a verb, for example, and te, by, with, or from you in the ablative. And our plural forms of you, vos, you all, vestrum, vestri, genitive, we have of you for both of these. Remember, two genitive forms for these plural ones. Vobis, to or for you or y'all. Vos, accusative, you or y'all. and ablative vobis, by, with, or from you. So you have already seen some of these forms in our exercises and examples. We've had may, for example, and te in expressions. Amabote, for example, we've translated that as please, but it means I will love you, right? So we've seen some of these already. And you've also learned some possessive adjectives, and they are related to some of these words as well. So meus, tous, noster, and wester are possessive pronouns, my, your, our, and y'all's. And they're related to some of these forms that you see here as well. All right, we'll talk about those in just a minute. All right, let's look at our third-person pronouns here. Third-person pronouns. Is, ea, and id are our pronouns for he, she, and it. And these follow our standard 2-1-2 pattern of magnus, magna, magnum, but deviating from that standard 2-1-2 pattern in most of the same places that ille, illa, illud deviates. Remember, illa, illa, ille, illa, illud, that and those is one of the far demonstratives that we learned in 2 chapters ago, I believe. Okay, so below, see the 8 shaded boxes. Now, I am deviating here from what Wheelock mentions. Wheelock mentions 10 forms, but really there are only 8 that actually deviate from Magnus's case endings. And so they're here. What we also want to point out here before we look at the chart is that the base of the third-person personal pronouns is e, and it's an I instead of the I, in 4 forms. And I've got those for you here in our chart. I mentioned underlining, but I don't see that I actually did, so I will go ahead and underline them for you here. Okay, so we've got is, id here, and I. Okay, so those are the 4 where the I is the base. Everywhere else, it's e. Okay, so sorry about that. After the base, a or e, what you're doing is you're applying the standard 2-1-2 case endings in all forms except those 8 that follow ille. Okay, so let's look at the forms. And what I've done in the chart is I've given you the forms of ille, illa, illud, so that you can just have them as a point of comparison. We won't read them. I just want you to see the similarities here. All right, so let's start with our nominative forms. And we'll read across and just cover all the nominative forms. So you can repeat after me. Is, ea, id, so he, she, it. Eius, 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 of him, of her, of it. Notice that this is very similar to Elias, right? All the same forms. All the genders look exactly the same, except we don't have the long I here in eius. Okay? And then we have ei, 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 so to or for him, her, or it. Again, just like illi, 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 these are the same. Okay, no distinction in the actual gender for these forms. They're all the same. Okay, now eam, eam, id. Okay, illum, illam, illud. Right? Notice that the neuter form in the accusative is always going to match the neuter form in the nominative. And then that's just him, her, or it as objects of the verb, for example, in accusative case. Ablative, eo, ea, eo, by, with, or from him, her, it. All right, so these are all standard case endings here. The dative case ending, this is not your standard 2-1-2 case endings from Magnus. If you remember, it's just to remember that it's magno, magna, and magno. That's dative singular. But this does look like the dative singular of third declension, so that might help you there. Okay. All right. Let's look at the plural forms. Ei, ii, So this is they, nominative, masculine, plural. Ei, ea, so they, feminine and neuter. Eorum, earum, eorum, so of them, all genders. Eis, 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 so to or for them. Remember with Elise, we had the same long I there. Eos, eas, ea, so them. Again, notice the neuters are identical in nominative and accusative. And then ablative. Eis, 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 by, with, or from them. All right, good. So let's just talk about usage and translation of these personal pronouns. So we've looked at the forms. Let's look at the function now. As noun replacements, pronouns can function in any way that nouns can. So they can be subjects, direct objects, indirect objects, object of the preposition. I can say he went to the store, subject. The monster killed him, direct object. I gave him the pencil, indirect object. I'm doing this for him, object of the preposition. Pronouns can do all of those things. Okay. Now, the case of the pronoun is determined by its function. What case will a pronoun have? I look at the actual function of the pronoun in its clause, and that will determine the case. Subject, nominative. Object, accusative. Okay? That determines the case, the function does. Now, the number and the gender of the pronoun, if it's a third person pronoun, it's gendered, right? Is determined by the referent or the antecedent. Okay, many of us have learned the word antecedent as we talk about pronouns in traditional grammar. The antecedent is the thing that was mentioned that the pronoun refers back to. I like the word referent for that concept. You'll hear me use it a lot. I do sometimes use antecedent as well. But I use referent because sometimes pronouns don't refer to something mentioned prior. That would be an antecedent. But sometimes a pronoun can refer to something that hasn't been mentioned yet. So if I say, hey, get this, you don't know what the this refers to because I haven't been talking about anything beforehand. But the this is going to be pointing to or referring to something yet to come. Get this, my aunt bought me a pistol, right? The this refers to something yet to be disclosed. So referent is a good word for that. All right, so if the referent or the antecedent is a man, then I'm going to choose the masculine singular form of the pronoun to refer to him. If it's a woman, then I'm going to use a feminine singular pronoun to refer to her. All right. Now, since Latin verbs inflect for subject, the use of an overt nominative subject pronoun it's not necessary. It's optional, and so when you see it used, it's used for some kind of emphasis or contrast. And so let's take a look at the sentences below, and I want you to be thinking about what is the case, gender, and number that I'm seeing. If the pronoun has a gender, we'll be thinking about gender, and then why. Why does it have the case, gender, number that we're seeing? So let's take a look at these. I have is, tibi, or vobis, libros dabit. Okay? And the English translation here is, he will give the books to you. The T is the third singular form. But notice that is here is the nominative, masculine, singular, third person pronoun. So that's the he. Okay? Why is it nominative? Because it's the subject of this verb over here. Okay? That's why it's nominative. Tibi, or vobis, these are dative, right? And they're second person. Remember, first and second person don't mark gender. They do mark number. Tibi is singular, vobis is plural, but they're dative. Now, why dative case? Because this is the indirect object of the verb dabit, right? So he will give the books to you, whether it's tibi or vobis in English, we'll still translate it the same way. Okay. And then libros is the accusative case, but there's no pronoun here for this. But this is what he will give. Okay, so that explains our pronouns here. In this example, tu or vos mihi eos dabis or dabitus, depending on whether tu or vos is the subject. So dabis is second singular, dabitus second plural, based on our verb ending here. All right. So what am I saying here? Tu or vos is nominative, and there's no gender for first and second person pronouns, but tu is singular and vos is plural. Why are they nominative? Because they are the subject of the verbs that we see here. Okay, and that's the you here in this the English translations. You will give, and then eos. What case is that? Looking at that os ending, this is accusative. It is with the o masculine plural. Now, why is it accusative? What determines the case of the pronoun? Its function. That's right. I heard you say that. Its function. It's the direct object of give. You will give them. And why is it masculine plural? Because I'm referring backwards here to my referent or my antecedent, libros, which are books, and books are masculine plural in Latin. So that's what I'm giving, or that's what you're giving, or will give. So you will give them. And then mihi is dative, and it's first person, so there's no gender, but there is a number. This is singular. Okay? And why is it dative? Because mihi marks the indirect object, the recipient. You will give them to me. All right? So, pronouns, case, determined by function, gender, if gender is marked, and number depend upon the antecedent or the referent. And notice here, the is for he will give is contrasted with you will give. He will give the books to you. You will give them to me. So in our exercises, we are using the nominative subject pronoun just to practice, but you don't always see that in Latin. All right. Okay, let's look at the other two sentences here. Ei id ad nos mittent. Let me say that. Okay, so they will send it, or that thing, to us. So there's my verb mittent. That's a third plural personal ending, you can see. It's future because mitto is a third conjugation, and I've got the e here, so that makes it future, just to clarify that verb form. Now, ei, here's my e ending. This is nominative masculine plural. Why is it nominative masculine plural? They. It's nominative because it's the subject of the verb mittent. Okay, so that's the cases determined by function. Why is it masculine plural? Well, in my mind, the they is a group of men or a mixed group, and the masculine plural can stand for both genders. Okay, id is the word it here. You remember id is the neuter nominative or accusative singular. Why is it? Well, which one is it here? It's got to be the accusative. It can't be nominative because we've already got a nominative subject here. So that's accusative neuter singular. And why is it accusative in case? Because of its function. It is the direct object. It's what they will send. They will send it. And then ad nos. Nos is first person pronoun, and this is accusative. And first and second person pronouns have no gender, but they do have number. This is accusative plural. Why? Why is it accusative? Because it's the object of the preposition ad here. Okay, so we'll just put object of P, and it's got to be accusative because of the preposition here, and it's plural because the speaker is not one person but many, right? Us. So they will send it to us, and the it here refers to some neuter thing. All right, and then over here in the second sentence, ei, ea, ad te mittent. Okay, almost the same expression, but ei has the nominative, but not masculine plural, but feminine plural. Ea, here, this has got the neuter plural. This is accusative, neuter plural. And then te is accusative, and it's second person singular. All right? Why is ea, they, nominative? Because it's the subject of the verb mittent, they will send. Why is it feminine plural? Well, because in this sentence, my antecedent or referent is a group of women. So they, women, will send. Ea, accusative, neuter plural. Why is it accusative? Direct object. Why is it neuter plural? Because I'm sending things. So, or they're sending things. So they will send them those things. And then ad te is telling you to whom. And this is the object of the preposition, because ad is a preposition that takes an object. That determines its accusative case. So this is to you. All right. So this is how we see pronouns being used. There's one little difference here. As we just saw the preposition ad with the object of the preposition pronoun coming after it. With cum, slightly different thing happens here. When a pronoun is the object of the preposition cum, meaning with, the preposition cum will attach to its pronominal object. So I'll give you an example here. Veniam ad te, I will come to you. Preposition, te, usually comes after, right? Object of the preposition. But look at this example. Pax te cum. I would have expected, as an English speaker, to hear peace be with you as pax cum te, peace with you. But notice that in Latin, the object of the preposition is first, and cum is attached to it as a kind of suffix. So pax te cum is a peace with you, peace be with you. All right, so watch out for that with the preposition cum. All right, now let's talk about indicating possession here. Typically, possession is indicated by use of a genitive noun. So in our example here, I have liber hominis, right? There's my genitive noun. There's the east genitive case ending. The book of the man. The book of the man. And of the man is possessive in the genitive use. So I could translate this as the man's book. All right? So I'm just showing you that I can have noun plus a genitive noun following the head noun, and that genitive noun will indicate possession. That's fairly standard. When the possessor, though, is a pronoun, there are two different strategies that Latin uses. In first and second person pronouns, Latin does not use the genitive forms to indicate possession when the possessor's first or second person pronoun. Instead, they use the possessive 2-1-2 adjectives that we've already learned. Meus, mea, meum, my, to us, to your, you singular, noster, nostra, nostrum, our, and wester, westra, westrum, your or y'all's, you plural. Okay? Now, because, you have to note this, they are possessive adjectives, their case gender number must agree with what they modify. These adjectives will all have a gender. They will all have a case. They will all have a number. All right? So, whatever they're modifying, my book. Book will be a case gender number. The word meus has to match it. Okay? Your mare. Your will have to match mare's case gender number. Feminine, accusative, singular. Now, if it's a third person pronouns, then third person pronouns do use their genitive pronoun for marking possession. And since these are pronouns and not adjectives, they will only be in genitive case, no matter what the case of the head noun is that's being possessed. Now, possessive adjectives and pronouns in Latin are also frequently omitted when they can be recovered easily from the context. And if it makes sense, you can add that possessive pronoun or possessive adjective in your translation, even though it's not overtly there in the Latin text. So let's consider a few examples of possessives in Latin. And I want you to pay attention to the person of the possessive here, because that dictates which strategy we use for possession. So mitam is the future first person singular of to send. So I shall send. And look at my forms here. Pecuniam meam. Pecuniam is accusative feminine singular because pecunia is a feminine singular noun, and it is the direct object of I shall send, mitam. So it's accusative because it's the direct object. Now here is my possessive adjective. Adjectives always agree with their nouns in case, gender, number when they're attributive adjectives. So this is telling you whose money I will send. I will send my money, pecuniam meam. Notice that just as pecuniam has accusative feminine singular form, meam has to match that accusative feminine singular form. Okay, pecuniam meam. Now, if it's our money that I will send, it's pecuniam nostram. But again, notice we have the matching case gender number, pecuniam nostram. Okay, I don't put those in the genitive case. As a pronoun, I use the possessive adjective, meus and noster. Okay, but, okay, so let me just mark this. So this is first singular and possessor, and this is a first plural possessor, right? Remember, first and second person, we use the possessive adjective. And then if I want to put a different direct object here, okay, then it's mitam, pecuniam, in both of these, but now I have eius. This is a third person possessor, and notice I am going to the ius genitive, masculine, feminine, or neuter singular. Now, not very likely that this would be neuter, but eius could be masculine or feminine. So it's shall send the money of him or the money of her. That is to say, I will send his money or her money. Okay? And then I've got a third person plural form over here with pecuniam eorum. All right? That's genitive, masculine, plural. I am using the genitive pronoun for third person possessors. I will send or shall send the money of them. And the masculine choice here means that the them are men. The money of them or their money, the men's money. All right, so those are the strategies. The demonstrative adjective function of the pronouns is ea id. When the personal pronouns is ea id function as pronouns, then they function like nouns do. But sometimes they function like attributive adjectives. So that may be kind of odd to think, but sometimes these pronoun forms are functioning as adjectives. And when that happens, they are no longer translated as personal pronouns because they're not functioning like that. You don't translate them as it, as he, she, it, or they. But they are functioning as weak demonstrative adjectives. This, that, these, and those. And then secondly, they will accompany a noun that they modify, and so they will agree with that noun in case, gender, number. I have no idea what that is. That must be a little typo. Okay, so, oh boy. This is supposed to be on the next page at the front of the top here. So, personal pronoun use, and then weak demonstrative adjective use. Okay, so here is a pronoun, and that means he. Is est bonus. He is good. All right, but look at the corresponding form. This is almost identical, but here I have is followed by the noun amicus. Okay, is amicus. These are both nominative masculine singular, and the is functioning as a weak demonstrative adjective here. So I can't translate this as he friend is good. He friend is good doesn't make sense. This is weak demonstrative use. I could translate this as this or that. Okay? This friend is good or that friend is good. Either of those would work. And then in our example here, we desu ne, do you see her? Remember, ne introduces a question. Des, you see, question, do you see? And then I have So here's my pronoun, and it's feminine singular accusative. Do you see her? And now in this corresponding sentence, des ne puellam. This should not be translated as do you see her girl? Okay, this is in accusative feminine singular, but it matches case gender number with puellam. All right, and so this is technically the direct object, and this is a demonstrative adjective modifying puellam. All right, so do you see this girl or that girl? All right. Last, the identical adjective function of idem, eadem, and idem. When you take the demonstrative is, id, and add dem as a suffix, then it means the same blank, whatever the noun is that it's modifying. So the same man, the same woman, the same thing. You can see that this is a compound. Is, id is the front part, dem is the last part, right? So the is, id portion of idem, eadem, and idem will inflect for case gender number. The dem part is unchangeable. So let's take a look here at our examples. Pecunia eiusdem viri. Okay, so this is the money. And notice I've got, remember, the dem part is unchanged. This is the part that I have to look at the case gender number for to see how to think about it. Eius here, that's the genitive, right? It's genitive. Now, why is it genitive? Because viri is genitive, and let's finish out the parsing. It's genitive masculine singular. So I would want the genitive masculine singular inflection of eius here, right? And eius is actually genitive masculine feminine or neuter singular from the is, id forms that we saw. So this is genitive masculine singular because viri is genitive masculine singular, and it has to match viri. So how do I translate this? Well, pecunia viri is the money of the man. Pecunia eiusdem viri is the money of the same man. You're going to translate these idem, eadem, and idem forms as the same. Okay, so the same man. Video eiusdem amigos. Okay, so I see, amigos is what case gender number? Accusative masculine plural. I see the friends. But I want to say I see the same friends. How do I do that? I take the forms of is, id, and add dem, right? But I have to inflect that front part for the right matching case gender number of the noun that's being modified. So I want the accusative masculine plural here as well as here. So that's why I'm using eos. Okay? So I see eiusdem, the same, amigos. All right, and then look at this last one. Video eiusdem. I see the same. Notice that the noun is unstated. So these forms of same are functioning like adjectives. Okay, they're what I like to call the identical adjective because they're drawing an identity relationship. The same man means the identical man. But what did we learn about adjectives? Adjectives can function attributively, as they are here in these two. Okay, they are attributive in their function. But adjectives can also be substantival. And when they are, the noun is missing, but the adjective functions like the noun. So this is a substantival use of the adjective, the identical adjective. So I see the same. I need to translate this in a way that makes sense of this form using the noun role. I see the same ones. Because it's, looking at eos, because it's accusative masculine plural, I could also say I see the same men or boys, depending on what the antecedent of that word is. All right. Now, final thing I'll say here is that there are some spelling changes in some of the forms. Is nominative masculine singular with dem. There's a problem with the S before the dental D, and the S drops out before the dental. But I get a long I as compensation for the loss of this consonant. So I get E-dem instead of I-dem, okay, because S is missing. All right. Now, this one is neuter, nominative singular. It's id-dem, and we just simply drop one of the D's here. Okay, simplification of the consonants, id-dem. And so E-dem versus I-dem is the masculine versus the neuter nominative. Over here, I have am-dem, and this is accusative masculine singular, right? Accusative masculine singular. And I would have liked to have seen am-dem, but before the dental D sound, da, your tongue is over by the back of the teeth with da. The M is formed by closing the lips together. It's a nasal sound. And what happens is, in anticipation of the D, the M changes to an N sound. So notice that when you do n, the tongue is in the same place where the da is, right? And this is what's called a partial assimilation. So am-dem becomes aeon-dem. We saw this with humk becomes hunk for the accusative masculine singular of hike, hook. Okay, and am-dem becomes aeon-dem. Okay, M changes to N, just like humk becomes honk in the forms of hic. Okay, so we've already seen this. And then aorum-dem, again the M changes to N, and with arum-dem we would get the same sort of change. All right, so those are some changes there, but the principle here is still the same. So all right, thanks everybody.